Now I invite you to find a position that's comfortable and that supports you and keeps you grounded. Lovingly place your hand upon your heart again, or take the hand of the person next to you if you like. Close your eyes. Let's take a deep breath. And let's meditate and listen to my words. If they resonate with you, if they are helpful, let them enter into your experience. And also bring your own experience in your own language to what is being pointed to as we touch into this meditation of grief. So with me, take another deep breath. Exhale. And bring your attention to the breath for just a moment. Now recall a moment that loss or losses have touched you. I'll offer some simple phrases that we can be mindful of. The truth of grief. May I be open to the pain of grief. May I notice what comes up, not rejecting it, not clinging to it. May I be open to sorrow, to the pain of grief. May I find the inner resources to be present for my sorrow. And notice any judgments or resistance that arises as you breathe. May I accept my sadness, knowing that I am not my sadness. If you have cared for someone and felt like it wasn't always so easy to be with them, reflect on that. May I forgive myself for not being able to meet my loved one's needs. And may I forgive myself for mistakes made and things left undone. So true of life for all of us. Let's breathe in and out again, slowly and deeply, recognizing our breath. May I be open with others and with myself about the experience of grief and loss. May I be open to receive the kindness of others as they support me in this journey of grief. Contemplating this exploration of grief, may I learn and transform into new life. Again, noticing whatever is arising for you, whatever thoughts are present, not clinging to them. Whatever you're feeling in your heart, how the body feels, as you consider the possibility that grief can be a profoundly humanizing experience and bring greater depths into our lives. I gratefully acknowledge my feelings and travel in and through grief so that I can be transformed into a new and powerful way of being, keeping my loved ones in my heart and rejoice in the love that we share. In knowing this, I am awake to the possibilities within me. And so it is.
And so it is.
Amen. And I just keep on going, don't I? So let me introduce myself. I went around and tried to introduce myself to most everyone here. And if I missed somebody that just came in, my name is Brock Ford. And I'm a member of San Francisco Unity. And I'm a licensed Unity teacher student. And I'm also a ministerial student at Emerson Theological Seminary. And it's a wonderful quest that I'm on. And you're going to learn a little bit about why I've just started this quest this year. And this is my second time to speak, y'all. So be patient with me, okay?
Okay.
And I may have to take a sip sip of my Southern iced tea. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, and I like my tea. But at any rate, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be here with you today and share with you what I know as grief in the way that I just recently went through it, and the amazing transformation that can happen when we sit with it and we go through it and we accept it into our lives, and the wonderful, wonderful new life that we can have through transformation, through grief. My most recent experience was with grief began in March of last year when my sister died of a stroke at the age of 57. And just a few months later, my mother died of I believe it was an aneurysm, just a few months later, right before she turned 75. And that took me on a year-long journey. And that's what started my journey into profound grief. I quit my job of 15 years as vice president of Century 21 Real Estate. I isolated in my house with my 2 doggies and spent every day questioning life, questioning death, questioning what is spirit, what is God, yelling at God. I sort of lost all my spirituality, and I just isolated in my house to the point of missing them so much that I didn't eat. I lost 30 pounds. Other people eat, I didn't eat. I couldn't see anything good about their deaths. I just couldn't, and I didn't understand it. And I wanted to know why. But after the pain, it was like something just reached inside of me with a vacuum cleaner and just sucked everything out. Have you ever felt that before? I was empty, I was exhausted, and I had nothing left. I was starting over. It was a time to be a new me. It was an awakening that changed me inside and out and brought me to a place of understanding and acceptance. It changed my life for the better. Because of that, I can be with you today, and I know that my mom and my sister are still blessing and supporting me even in their deaths as they did here on earth. I'm very, very thankful for some wonderful friends that I allowed to see me in this condition and just let it all come out and let them see me, which I normally wouldn't do. And they were there just to listen to me, to hug me, to hold me, no judgments, just love and compassion poured onto me. And I can look back and I'm so very thankful and grateful for the year-long journey that brought me to my true self. And I can be thankful that through their deaths, new life is transforming for me. And that is me going into the ministry and being here today. Something I've been wanting to do for 30 years. And I grew up in a family of ministers and didn't want to be a minister. I didn't want to be like them. And so through this transformation, I found it's always been there. And when I said yes to God and yes to it, doors just opened wide and other doors closed. And so I knew that I know that this was what I was supposed to do. Grief is the normal emotional response to loss. As we grow and age, we grieve the yesterdays and all that entails. The lost loves, the missed opportunities, the good friends, the broken hearts, broken relationships, the gains, the losses, the good times, and as we call them sometimes, the bad times. But what I finally learned through this experience was that grief, when it comes, we can hug it, we can get to know it, we can sit with it and embrace it, and let it be an experience of memories, feelings, thoughts, and pain. I know there are many books and information, theories, and processes out there for grief and depression. Some are clinical and give steps to overcome it with medication. Others state psychological ways to get through it. Even affirmations that we can repeat every day during the grief to uplift our spirit. However, it doesn't always feel that good. It doesn't feel when we're having that deep sadness and grief over the loss of a loved one, or perhaps the loss of a job. It doesn't have to be like me with the loss of someone. It could be the loss of rebirth. It could be the loss of health. It could be the loss of something that you thought about that you wanted in your life, whatever that loss is. Inner peace comes, though, when we process, remember the truth, and we forgive ourselves and others, and when we practice mindfulness. During grief and depression, we can look at it like being a caterpillar, not yet a butterfly. In that stage, we don't know who we are, we don't know where we're going or what to do, but we're confused. All we know is that every fiber of our being is reaching out and calling for transformation, for disruption, for a revolution of the spirit, for breakdown. Well, I say, when you break down, surrender, go through it, let it be what it is for you, and experience that. This is not the death of us, y'all. This is the rebirth of us and the growing for us. It's the dying of who we once were, going into a new life without that person or that loss or that something that was there, and learning to navigate the waters and the roads of life without them. When we are experiencing grief and don't adhere to our feelings, we may miss the opportunity for divine to work wonderful miracles in our life. Being inauthentic and disingenuous about what's in our hearts speaks to the truth underneath us. Spiritual healing takes time. It takes work. And it takes emotion. It can suck. It's grief and it's hard. We can allow ourselves to process whatever it is that has happened or didn't happen for us to put us into grief. But never covering it up with platitudes. If we continue and let all the emotions have room and don't deny the feelings, sometimes it's okay if all we can do today is get up and breathe. And I learned that to be true this year. Sometimes spending all day in bed, faking a smile when you're around people that you have to be around because you really don't want to be around people. It's true. Skipping work so that you can sleep all day, or in my case, just quitting your job. I don't recommend it unless you really need to. I went through some other trials with that too. So anyway. But not showering for days or taking a bath. I did that too. I would realize I hadn't had a bath in 4 days because all I was doing was crying and processing, asking, being emotionally distant with the loved ones around us. I did that too. And please know, all of that's okay, guys. Every bit of it is our human experience. It's our grief in the way that we process it. The good is the insight that we gain from it. It's the new ideas, the new life, the new direction, and ultimately transformation. But what happens to grief if we don't allow ourselves to go through that process? If we say it's okay, we cover it up, we try to hide, we try to get out and do everything we're supposed to do and say, I'm supposed to do this because it's my spirituality, it's what I was taught, I'm not supposed to be sad. What happens if we do that? In our consciousness of unity, we are comfortable with the good emotions of peace, joy, love, compassion. We must also include those that we label as bad. Anger, hurt, grief, and sadness. They are all a part of us. It's all intertwined. So how do we process it? One, we can scale back our obligations or quit your job. We can cry out if needed to whatever you want to cry out to, or cry with someone. Avoid self-medicating so that you can be present and fully present with the grief. And we can find a support group or a person or a friend. In my case, it was 3 friends, and 2 of them were sitting right there. Let time be the healer. Write down your thoughts and feelings and journal what's going on at this point. Rely on your faith, your spiritualness, the God within you, the divine within you. And count your blessings. It was hard to do that at first for me, but I learned to count my blessings through it, and things open. You see things, you hear things, you feel things. Listen to music that inspires you. I did that a lot. I love Southern gospel music. So, and I don't always say the right words that we like, but I love the Southern gospel music. So I would sit in my garage with my earphones on and just listen for hours and just cry. And it helped me. Sit outside and listen to nature. Listen to the rain. Listen to the wind today that's blowing. And we can learn, finally, to be grateful in this experience. But y'all, we have a brain. And since we have a brain and thoughts keep coming to us every second, we remember things, therefore. So therefore we grieve. The death of a loved one may also trigger an existential crisis in a spiritual quest. Therefore, religious and philosophical beliefs play a huge role in the grieving process and recovery process. Re-examining one's own identity. Who am I now without them, or without that, whatever that is? But with transformation and growth, the painful experience of grieving provides us a unique opportunity for self-discovery and personal growth. The basic process involves some basic reorganization and new transformations of our priorities and our belief systems. And the steps may be really painful. They can be excruciating at times. The process may involve different kinds of strategies and practices such as mindfulness, meditation, spiritual pursuit, or a change of life, as in my case. And with courage, authenticity, being honest to ourselves, truly, truly honest to ourselves, we can rediscover faith and meaning and experience growth in our soul. Everybody with me? You want to take a deep breath? I think I need to. Grieving is the pain of letting go of love. Grieving is also the pain of searching for what has been lost or not gotten. In the process, we discover something far more precious than we ever knew. There's a quote that says, "Indeed, blessed are the brokenhearted, for they find healing and transformation." Grieving is a powerful and very personal journey. Yours is not like mine, and mine is not like yours. Eventually, we all grieve something in our lives, or someone, if we've lost a child, a parent, a lover, a pet, a friend. We know that grief can transform us if we've been through that, because we're still here. We often live with the illusion that we're in control. Do we think you're in control of things? In other words, we live in a certain way until something happens that shatters that perception, that shatters that reality for us. The resulting dissolution, or you might say disillusion, that follows is the beginning of a remarkable process of being healed. And that marks the first stage in the grief process and journey. In 1969, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, have you heard of her before?
Yes.
She introduced the 5 stages of grief in her book that she was writing with, and research that she was doing with cancer patients. And so she found that denial, disbelief, shock, and numbness after hearing the bad news is the first step. Anger. When the numbness lifts, anger may be easier to feel than intense pain associated with it. So we direct our pain at the doctors. They did something wrong, or the hospitals, because I thought that too. Did they do everything that they could? We may direct it at our loved ones. This free-flowing anger can be directed inward, though, towards self or outward. Or we can direct it directly to God and to Spirit, asking for help. It's okay to ask for help. The next step, her third one, is bargaining. Bargaining can be a reaction to the vulnerability that occurs when feeling the sorrow and loss. It can be an attempt to be in control of the situation. Depression is her next one. The full impact of the unmasked impending loss of life finally hits, and you feel it. You feel the sorrow. You feel the sadness. And depression follows. At least it did for me. And the last one she states is acceptance and coming to terms with what is happening and finding a way forward. When we sit in the stillness and accept the waves of grief that wash over us, eventually there will come a time that the urge to move will start. It will be quiet, unassuming, and gradual. In my case, it took a year. It might take a week or a month for you. 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. From intense feelings over what has been lost, there will arise a feeling of gratitude for what is remaining. When experiencing the loss of a loved one, an inevitable gratitude for life and living as adults. The gift of grief is ultimately the strengthening of the ability to truly appreciate and value the process of living here right now, being human, present, and the way it is, whatever it is at this moment. Grief is often associated primarily with the loss of a loved one. While this is a highly visible situation involving grief, people can fail to recognize that whenever change occurs, even change that we chose, or that we thought we liked, or that was a positive one, there's a potential for a sense of something that has been lost, or the need to grieve over something about that. There's another quote that states, we can go through the grief, or we can grow through the grief. I'm going to say that again. We can go through the grief, or we can grow through the grief. Experiencing grief and being in it, moving through it, and growing from it isn't a straight and easy path. But finding the courage to walk through the storm and discover what's on the other side can lead us to extraordinary transformational life. Grief can either tear us apart and linger for years and years and years, or it can be the opportunity to consciously recreate our life beyond our wildest dreams. So, what would be different if we could go through the process of losses, no matter what kind of loss? Loss of a family member, a job, divorce, loss of our health, loss of our purpose in life. And while doing that, we were able to recreate ourselves and our life. I believe this points to one of many steps taken on the grief journey. This is a deeper practice of reconciling loss. We are acknowledging that while our loved one was here on earth, life seemed endless. We didn't think about death. We didn't think about the loss of them going down the street and not seeing them again. Yet in our grief, we feel their presence more powerfully on this earth, even now that they're gone. Oftentimes, our deceased loved ones are most vividly alive in our minds and hearts around the holidays, which are coming up, family gatherings, and special occasions, because we are navigating a new landscape, a new life without them. And how do we live and navigate that with the loss? We are learning to connect their physical absence here on this earthly plane with their more spiritual presence now. We are being invited to integrate these two, absence and presence, into creating a new relationship and navigating a new landscape of life with them still involved with us, still in our hearts, still walking beside us, still feeling them as we go into this new life. It's a different way of feeling and seeing them, in my regard. So every holiday, no matter what faith tradition, is really a holy day, because it's an invitation for us to go into the deep waters, into the practice of being human, and in the strange territory that we're so often afraid of grief and loss. The most courageous thing there is, though, is to be fully present to all the rhythms of human life, even the most unexpected, the most painful, and take those rhythms and rearrange our lives so deeply that sometimes we don't want to do that because we fear if we start loving again, we may lose that. So we stay alone and we don't rearrange. We don't grow through that. Yet it is only in staying open and deeply connected to our heart that we continue to restore our trust and faith all over again. We may ask ourselves, why? Why my mama? Why my sister? And why so close together? Why did she have to die? Why would God take him? Why did this happen to her? The logic of the brain asks why. Why did that happen? The logic of the heart asks how. How do I live my life without loss, or with loss? How do I let those around me know how much they mean to me and that I love them? How do I make peace with what may seem to be the end of my world as it is? The question how lets us live life again with faith and trust, The question how reminds us that every crack in our heart is an opening. And whatever opened us is never as important as what has been opened. I'm going to say that again. Whatever opened us is never as important as what has been opened. When we find ourselves missing someone who has been gone for decades or days, remember this: embrace what is. Take the risk to give your full presence and care to whatever is most alive in us at the moment. When we miss our loved ones the most, we can hold tight to the notion that our time here is about fully living human, with each other, embracing that which may be chaotic and frightening and most uncertain at times. It's okay to grieve in our own way. It's okay to grieve however long it may take, at our own pace. What it's really about for me is humbly kneeling down to the messiness, just as it is, because it was a mess for me. So living life in this manner, we will find our greatest resistance to love and being loved. Living our life in this manner allows us to see ourselves in the stranger standing before us. And that's the greatest expression of spirit here on this earth. Living life in this manner will generate that same energy that was shared with the loved ones who are no longer physically on this earth. And their love that we cherish will be vividly alive and real inside of us. Live life in this manner and we will see the glory of God as we continue to create a new relationship and navigate a new landscape of life. So with all this said, when grief and depression come knocking on your door, I would encourage you to welcome it in. Don't deny it. Don't disregard it. Don't believe that you're supposed to be okay. And don't believe that you're supposed to be spiritual enough that you can get through it in a day or two. Or that you're not supposed to cry, or scream, or yell, or sleep. Don't let the notion that you're supposed to be above the spirituality keep you from experiencing the grief in all its mess that will ultimately lead you to transformation and new life. Blessings, my friends. Thank you. What's next, dear? It's a blessing of tithes and offering. Is that right?
Yes.
Does someone want to come up and sing or what? I don't know what you guys do.
Well, yeah, we can.
Okay.
Go turn to page 98.